This is different. We're starting at 1 o'clock. All righty. Welcome to the 1 o'clock docket for the Board of Municipal Zoning Appeals. I'm your MC for today. First, we ask that you please turn off all cell phones and keep talking to a minimum, if at all. As you all know, you're probably veterans here. It disturbs the proceedings and everything is being recorded. Really, it's recorded by video as well. The board will vote on each case and make a decision at the end of the docket today. If you'd like to witness the civics lesson, you feel free to stay and to hear that decision. Otherwise, you can call the BMZA office tomorrow morning after 9 a.m. That number is 410-396-4301. Again, 410-396-4301. You should receive your resolution in the mail within about 30 days. As always, we ask that you please do not do any work until your resolution is received, and certainly do not do any work in Baltimore City without pulling and obtaining the proper permits. First, I'm going to identify cases that were previously on the docket but have been postponed. First case is 2019-250, 1801 through 1821 Washington Boulevard. That case is postponed. I don't imagine we have anyone here for that. I'm also going to call another case with regard to a, I'm sorry, sir?
I was here for that case, but.
Oh, you're here for 2019-250?
1821?
No, 1801 through 1821.
Right.
Right. So this came in, did this postponement come in?
It did come in on time. So that case is going to be heard on September 24th.
Apologize that unfortunately you weren't given notice.
Make sure you come sign in so we can
Okay, great.
just give you a heads up reminder.
Okay, can I do it now?
Yes.
Sure. And you have your afternoon is more free than you thought.
What time was that gonna be?
It'll be same time.
1 o'clock.
Thank you.
All right, secondly, let me call the case of 2019-255, which is 732 and 734 West Lexington Street and 763 Dr. Benjamin Quarles Place. Mr. Potter?
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Ryan Potter on behalf of the Archdiocese of Baltimore.
Okay, and we understand that you're requesting a postponement today?
We are. We've had a number of very productive, positive meetings with the community organized by Councilman Costello, and we're grateful for that. But yesterday we had one where some folks who hadn't heard about this in the past appeared and raised some concerns, and the Archbishop's really trying to do something great and permanent. We just want to make sure we leave no stone unturned. So we've agreed with those folks that we would ask for your indulgence today and come back as soon as we can.
Very well. Having heard no objection, we'll grant the postponement today.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Mr. Potter, if you would call our office and let us know when you would like to get on the next hearing, and then we'll reissue you a posting notice.
Okay, thank you very much.
Let me next address the issue of the fact that we, as you see, we have 3 board members that are sitting here today. That gives rise to another rule, or procedural rule. The vote to approve any application must be unanimous. All 3 commissioners or board members must agree. Therefore, if you would like to postpone, please raise your hand or come up. Opposition may request it. The applicant may request it, but it must be unanimous. And if you, obviously, if there are more than 3, then it doesn't have to be unanimous. It can be some kind of a split decision. But because we only have 3, everyone has to agree. If you'd prefer not to proceed under those constraints and would like a postponement, we're happy to grant you one. Seeing no requests for postponement, we'll move on. And I'm sorry, let me just confirm. Do we have anybody sign in with opposition today? 110 and 251. Okay. All right. We note that there are 2 cases apparently that in which opposition is signed in. We do find it helpful for an applicant to meet with the opposition before we actually hear your case. So I want to call those cases for which opposition is signed in, and please stand. And if you hadn't had a chance to meet, please let us know. And if you'd like to have an opportunity to discuss the matter with your opposition, we'll give you an opportunity to do that. So as we've just heard, the cases are 2019-110, 3817 Callaway Avenue, Lori McCargo.
I'm sorry, I thought that was a sign-in sheet. I'm sorry.
Oh, I do too.
Are you the applicant or are you protesting?
I'm the
I'm
applicant.
the applicant.
Okay.
I already signed this.
Talking about playing F-45 in reverse, so we're going to do that again. Back that up. Well, for future reference, you know that if there's opposition, we give you an opportunity to speak so that hopefully it can be resolved prior to hearing the case. All right. Next, we will call, I'm sorry, since there's no opposition to my left.
Are there any
Okay.
consents? Are there any consents today?
There are. Now I'll call the cases that, for which the board has concluded we have sufficient information to grant your appeal. When I call your case number, please line up to my left here, and I will call those cases and we'll hear your cases and get that moving. First case on the consent docket. Sure. Case number 2019-247, 3617 through 3619 7 Mile Lane. Rick Richardson. Next consent case is 219-253, 2739 Miles Avenue, David Pfeiffer. And we also have case number 2019-254, 1821 Bank Street, Rob Robertson. Apologies.
It's repetitive.
Okay. All right. So let's start with case number 2019-247, 3617 through 3619 7 Mile Lane. That's right.
Raise your right
Forgive
hands,
me.
please.
Let's get sworn in. Then we can hear you.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, again, recalling the case of 2019-247, 3617 through 3619 7 Mile Lane, Rick Richardson. And Mr. Richardson, we have this as a request to use basement for adult daycare center with continued use of assisted living center on the main floor. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm actually not Mr. Rich, I'm the applicant, but
Okay, and your name is?
Menachem Tarragon.
Okay, Mr. Tarragon, very well.
You have to spell that for me.
Okay, M-E-N-A-C-H-E-M. Last name is T-A-R-A-G-I-N.
Okay, do we have any staff reports?
Have a letter of support in the file from the Falstaff Improvement Association.
Planning Department reviewed this application and is recommending approval, and notes that this property was previously authorized for use by an ordinance for the upstairs portion of this property, and there were specific site design requirements attached to that ordinance. Thank you.
Very well, thank you. Mr. Tarragon, is there anything else you'd like to add, sir?
No.
Okay, where's your parking space? All right, the board having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Calling the case of 2019-253, 2739 Miles Avenue. David Pfeiffer?
Yes,
Are you
sir.
Mr. Pfeiffer? All right. This is a request to construct a two-story rear addition, is that correct?
Yes.
All right, do we have any staff reports?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Pfeiffer, is there anything you'd like to add to your application?
No, sir.
All right, very well. Well, the board having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you, sir. And finally, case number 2019-254, 1821 Bank Street. Rob Robertson, not Richardson. All right, welcome, sir. This is a request to demo the existing first-floor rear addition, construct a two-story rear addition that includes garage door and deck at the third-floor rear. Is that correct? All right. Do we have any staff reports?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Mr. Robertson, is there anything you'd like to add to your application?
I think I'm good.
Very well. Well, the board having heard your appeal, we believe we have sufficient information to approve your appeal.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
You too.
Okay, we'll go to our regular docket, and we'll start with case number 2018-347, 3713 Eastern Avenue, Geraldo de la Cruz. Good afternoon.
Yeah, for the record, Melvin J. Kanensky, representing the applicant.
All right. Do we swear the witness?
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. And the purpose of this appeal is to erect a 44-square-foot business identification sign on the front wall. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Do we have any staff reports?
Thank you. Yes. Martin French for the Baltimore City Planning Department. Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property is located within the Highlandtown Business Area Urban Renewal Plan area. The specific sign that is requested in the first place may be mounted at a distance of more than 12 inches from the front wall of the building. And if that is the case, that particular urban renewal plan does not allow that type of a sign. Wall signs, according to that plan, must be within 12 inches of the wall of the building. Otherwise, it gets classified as a projecting sign, and that urban renewal plan only allows projecting signs on existing marquees, which this building does not have. In addition, the size of the sign that is being requested is substantially larger than the amount of sign area allowed by the zoning code. Based upon the zoning code that was in effect at the time of application, the requested sign would require a variance of approximately 72% according to Planning Department calculations. And the department believes that this is a particularly large or excessive amount of variance that's being requested. There's an additional requirement in the urban renewal plan that flat signs shall terminate no higher than the bottom of the second-story window where windows exist. This property has second-story windows, and the sign appears to terminate in terms of its highest portion above the windowsill level of those windows. The plan, urban renewal plan, does have a provision authorizing waivers of the standards contained in the plan. However, there is no record with the department that the applicant has requested any waiver of some of these provisions in the plan. The department therefore recommends disapproval of the application because approval of the size of the sign would require an excessive amount of variance of the maximum sign area allowed by the zoning code in the C1 zoning district where the property is located, and because the size and design of the sign are in violation of standards contained in the Highlandtown Business Area Urban Renewal Plan area for the area where this property is located. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. French. Okay, can you tell us about the project, particularly in reference to or noting the commentary by
Well,
the
this
planning?
particular applicant has been there about 5 years when this restaurant, the restaurant was there before this particular restaurant. There's me. I got some nice ones too.
Okay, that'd be fine.
This
Happy
is
to have them.
This is a copy of the old sign. You have that one?
Yes, sir.
So what they did, they replaced it. It doesn't project more than 12 inches from the wall. As you can see, you have that copy that's there. It's been there probably for about a year and a half since that time.
How is the sign affixed to the wall?
It's within 12 inches of the wall. It's the wall goes down this way. It's fixed in this way against the wall. See how the wall has a little drop in it like this one here? It's more pronounced on the old one. See, it has like a little canopy that comes down like that.
Yes, sir.
So that is, this one here goes back further. It's closer to the wall.
Okay, let me stop you right there. Mr. French, with regard to planning's observations with regard to the distance from the wall, can you describe a little bit more what it is the planning actually observed?
Without having had the benefit of anybody getting up on a ladder and measuring this distance, which is a problem here, and the planning department acknowledges that, it appears that the sign's upper part, or the majority of the sign, is more than 12 inches distant from the wall of the building. The wall of the building is based upon the upstairs. The sign appears to have been mounted at its lower section on a canopy that was projecting out from that wall. The canopy may be allowed to project more than 12 inches from the wall, but the sign is not allowed to project more than 12 inches from the wall in order to be classified by the urban renewal plan as a flat sign and by the zoning code as a wall sign.
Okay, thank you, sir.
As you can see, if you look here, there's the wall of the adjoining building. It's only several inches past that wall on top here. See the wall right here next to it? So it's not more than 12 inches out.
Well, is this roof of the structure itself, does it slant backwards? It appears to
It
slant.
slants back into the wall. If you look at the next building, the one to the next building comes out further than that. See, the building has the white facade on it, comes out further than even this building.
That building has no sign, so we're only
I don't know,
focused
I
on
can't,
the...
I don't have the rest of the building. Let me see what we got here. Maybe it does have a sign. Let's say something on it.
So the top part of the sign that's there now, based off of this smaller picture, seems to have this, like, pole that attaches the top part of the sign to the slanting, it's not a roof, but to the front of the building. So is that more than 12 inches? I think that's more than 12 inches, right?
It took like when you sit in the picture, it doesn't look like it is a lot of space, but it does a lot of space.
There's a lot of, okay.
Yes.
Okay. This is the new one?
Yes.
Yep. Anything else you'd like to add, sir?
Saying that that's been there for a year and a half, and it adds to the neighborhood, and it's replacing existing. I don't think it causes a hazard to the area. And the question is whether the whole thing has to be more than 12 inches, just the bottom part, the top part. I don't have an answer for that, but I just think that the very top may be out a little bit because of the canopy that's there.
Well, these are, it's to be classified as a flat sign, is that right? Okay, and flat would suggest that it would be affixed to the wall.
And if it's flat, then why would it not be more than 12 inches out? That doesn't make any sense either. Flat sign could be more than 12 inches out, not, it has to be less than 12 inches away from the wall, correct?
Has to be no more than 12
No
inches
more.
distant
So
from the
even
wall.
if it's flat,
Correct.
it wouldn't be against the building anyhow.
It's understood there'd be brackets,
No, yeah,
mounting a sign
yeah,
to a
that's what
front
I'm
wall.
saying, is that I think your perception is, Mr. Chairman, is that it would be flat against the wall, but that's not,
Well,
it can't be
flat
more than.
within 12 inches flat.
Yeah, but.
That's the rule,
it's
right?
Flat sign is up this way. The question is whether the top part may be a little more than 12, but the sign, somebody has to go out there and measure, I'm sure that's.
Did you measure it?
Solid. Huh?
Did you measure, but it's beyond, you agree, it's beyond 12 inches, correct?
At the top.
At the top, right.
Somebody
Yes, at
had
the top.
the sign man that put it up for you, didn't he?
Yes.
Somebody had applied for a permit for the sign, did it? Not, she didn't do it.
Well, I'm just asking about her observation of the sign itself. I think it's fairly clear from the photos, and I think what the witness testified to earlier is that there is more than 12 inches between the wall and the sign
Top.
at some point.
No,
At some
this is
point.
not what I said. I said 12 inch from each building.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
I'm sorry?
I said 12 inch for each building.
From the next door building?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not
We
from
could
the wall.
continue, and then I could get there, Mr. French, and we'll go up there and we can get some burritos, and we'll measure it. How's that?
Would you like,
What's up for
would you,
guys?
well,
Do that.
let me ask you, would you like a postponement to go back and bring back evidence of the
Go
distance
ahead and do
from the
that. That
wall?
would be
and the
nice,
sign?
and they'd certainly clear it. And the burritos are up to you guys, not up to me.
Not a fan, but that's okay.
Wow.
Are you requesting a
Yeah,
postponement?
we'll request it and get the measurements, and then,
No,
how's that?
come back and see
we'll
us.
be definitive, and then keep everybody in.
That'd be fine. That'd be fair. Happy to grant that postponement.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For that postponement, if you just go ahead and call the office tomorrow to let us know when you want to schedule that for, so we can reissue a posting notice.
And no burritos for you.
Exploded. All right, 2018-347 is now postponed. Calling the case 2019-110. 3817 Callaway Avenue, Lori McCargo.
Hello.
Hi, ma'am. Just swear the witness.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. McCargo, we have this request to use premises as 2 dwelling units. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do we have any staff reports?
Yes, thank you. Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property is zoned R1, which does not permit conversion of single-family dwellings to multifamily. However, this property has been previously authorized for use as a 2-family dwelling, and on that basis, the department has no objection to the application if the applicant has demonstrated to the board that multifamily dwelling use of the property has not been abandoned or discontinued since its original use that way in 1979. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. McCargo, can you tell us about your case, particularly with regard to the issue of abandonment or not?
Well, I was able to obtain documentation from BG&E, which states that the first floor meters were installed on April 1st, 1979, and the electric meter was installed on 1975, and has been in use since. So I can share that with you all,
It has been in use since 1975?
both meters.
Okay. And what's the evidence that you have with regard to that?
So here's one of the emails. And then here's another letter that I received, which states an updated meter was installed. And has been in use since the updated meters have been installed.
Okay, would you like to submit this for the record?
Sure.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add for your project?
Well, I just wanted to bring the information that, what was that gentleman's name? That said he was the letter, was it Baumgartner?
Derek Baumgartner?
Yeah, so I have his letter, do you all have that? That says he's in favor as long as I can demonstrate that it's been in use. So I didn't know if you wanted to see that.
And has it been, it's been occupied since 1975? And how do you know that?
Well, I purchased it in 1999. I have a copy of my deed, which shows the date I purchased it. And I purchased it because at the time it was just me and my 2 cats.
Okay.
And I didn't need an entire house, and it was also a source of income.
Yes.
So I've been renting it as such, as 2 units,
Since 1999?
since I purchased it, yes, sir.
Okay. Then you should know.
Yes.
All right. I can pass that down as well.
Also, I didn't receive notice of the change in zoning, but just to add further proof to, within the mile radius, I was able to find 20 multifamily units in this area. So I'll add that, because I never received notice of the zoning change. So if you all wanna have a look at that as well. There's like 3 on my block where I am.
Did you apply for a use permit in 2018 as a single-family home?
No, I applied for a multifamily unit, and then when I had to reschedule this, I went back, and they said, don't apply until the hearing for a 2-unit. So they said, wait until you get the decision. I've had to register with the city, you know, the city makes you
Right.
register as a rental property.
Right.
And because sometimes the units are subsidized units, I've had to get the property inspected.
Yes.
I had to get lead inspection. So I've done what I was supposed to do, you know, to maintain it as a rental property. It's just I didn't know that the zoning changed until I got this notice on my door. And then now, you know, proving what, I'm providing the documentation to show that it's been as such, per his letter from Mr. Baumgartner.
Okay.
Do you live in the property?
Not anymore. I lived there until 2012.
But it's being rented out presently?
Yes.
Okay.
And when you purchased the property in 1999, was it occupied both?
One unit was occupied,
One
so
unit
I
wasn't.
moved into the vacant unit.
Okay, so then 2 units became occupied. All right, got it. All right. Thank you, ma'am. There being no other questions from the board, I think we've...
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good
Oh,
luck.
also, if you want letters from people who are in support of.
If you would like to submit them for the record, we can do that.
Well, I don't know how much you already have, because this is like my second time coming here, so I just
Okay.
didn't want to give you all duplicate information if you already had it.
Okay, I don't think we can ever have,
Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Sorry, we could just have that to the record for that case. Calling the case of 2019-192, 744 Dolphin Street. Mr. Austin Carroll.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good afternoon, sir. Swear the witness.
Raise your right hand.
Oh,
Do you
hold
s-
on.
Up.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony?
Okay. Now we have a few more folks.
Raise your hands. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Carroll, we have this for reconsideration to use as 3 dwelling units, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. Do we have any staff reports?
Yeah, the Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property is currently improved with a 3-story attached residential building. The lot itself measures 14 feet by 100 feet, thus yielding 1,400 square feet of lot area under the dwelling units. The requirement in this particular zoning district is 750 square feet of lot area per dwelling unit. Thus, this property does not even have the minimum lot area required for 2 dwelling units, let alone 3. The amount of variance that would be required, in the opinion of the department, is extremely large in relation to the amount required by Table 9-401 of the zoning code, given that even 2 dwelling units could only be created on this property with a variance. The department also notes a provision of the zoning code which states, whenever the active and continuous use of a dwelling unit in a non-conforming multifamily structure, which this building is, subject to this section has been discontinued for 12 consecutive months, the discontinuance constitutes an abandonment of that dwelling unit, regardless of any reservation of an intent to resume active use or to reoccupy the unit or otherwise not abandon it, and the number of dwelling units allowed to continue in the structure is reduced by 1. The department, in consideration of all of these matters, is recommending disapproval of this application for 3 dwelling units because the amount of lot area variance required for approval is excessive, given the fact that even 2 dwelling unit use of the property would require variance of lot area standards. That said, the department has no objection to approval of a multifamily dwelling containing 2 dwelling units in accordance with the provisions of Section 18-412B of the zoning code. One moment, please.
Mr. Chair, just for the sake of accuracy, if we can confirm that the 2 individuals that are here in opposition today are the same individuals that had signed in the prior case? So Mr. John Gesk and Ms. Jules Duncan Howie? Juanita? Okay, but same 2 people.
Very well, thank you. Appreciate that. Mr. Carroll, let's hear about your project with regard particularly to the variance issues.
Sure. And I've got a couple things, I guess, submit to the record. I got a couple copies for y'all.
All right?
Just 3?
Yes. What is this we're seeing here?
I'll reference it a couple times throughout what I'm going through here, prove some practical difficulty. But thank you all for hearing me today. I spent a considerable amount of time speaking with the zoning administrator, Mr. Veal, and the executive director, Mr. Baumgardner.
Yes, sir.
In order to understand the legal arguments of the case. It's my understanding that we have 2 legal arguments and 1 social issue. The legal issues are, first, can we prove that the building has been lawfully used as a 3-unit property in the past? And second, is there practical difficulty that would allow for the board to approve a variance from the current zoning code in order to continue use as a 3-unit dwelling? The social issue is one about the community and what the community wants using data from the Upton 2026 master plan, which I've read in full, and I've got some excerpts there that I'll reference a little bit further. First, to tackle the legal issues in your packet, you should have proof that the property was registered as a 3-unit property in 2014 from the previous owner. We've gathered evidence showing the registration was also in 2016 and 2017, all showing that the property is a 3-unit dwelling. You should also have a page in your packet that shows that the zoning still holds the property as a 3-unit dwelling. This, without question, proves that the property is, and as far back as zoning records have it, was a 3-unit dwelling building. If you look at the floor plan, this is also a typical setup of the 3-unit property, with the stairs in the middle of the property making it hard for the property to be used as anything but a 3-unit dwelling. This shows not only that it is currently set up as a 3-unit dwelling, but that it has been for quite some time. When we purchased the property in 2018, every indication was that it was a legal 3-unit property. We called zoning to verify. There are similar 2 to 4 unit properties on the block, and the setup was clearly 3 units, and clearly has been for a long time. The second legal issue regarding the variance that we are requesting from the zoning board, and this is what I believe is the true reason we're here today, is the bulk regulations that this property only has enough for 1 unit, narrowly missing the requirements for 2 units. It's my understanding that under the old zoning code, the 3-unit use was legal and it did meet bulk requirements. Therefore, we would need a variance to continue use as a 3-unit dwelling. We'd like to prove that practical difficulty would be involved in taking this property back to a single-family home. It's also my understanding that there's no legal definition of practical difficulty. So I'd like to prove what practical difficulty might mean in this situation, both by a cost method, a value method, and talking about what would happen if the 3-unit variance was not granted. In order to prove this, since there's no metric to tell us what represents practical difficulty, I'd like to present you with some data to show what it would cost and what the value difference in the property would be if it were turned into a single-family home. Hopefully, you'll see the impracticality of doing this, and this is truly where the opinion of the board comes into play. I've got a list of things that would need to be done in order for the property to be taken from a 3-unit to a single-family use. I could read them. You can also reference the budget, which is, I believe, the last page of what I gave you. We spoke with one of our general contractors and did up a budget of what it would take to get there, essentially from taking it from a 3-unit dwelling and things that would not need to be done as it was just improved, but taking it back to a single-family home would be about $96,000. I can certainly read those things, but it involves things like, rewiring the whole house from 3 different things to, 3 different systems to 1 system.
Yeah, I think we can
replumbing the house.
take notice of the listing on the attachment here.
Perfect. So these would be the big items that would not typically be done if you were just doing a cosmetic renovation as we did to this property. After consulting the general contractors, we've got the $96,000 budget there to show what that would cost to take this back. Even if this was perfectly executed, you would still have a chopped up home of likely 4 to 5 bedrooms that really the only conceivable use I could see in this area would be a rooming house, which would also be not attractive to the neighborhood. Now that you understand the cost of taking this property to a single family home from its existing setup as a 3-unit property, let's talk about value. To provide some validity behind my analysis, I'm the #1 agent in my Keller Williams brokerage. Did 35 deals last year, 33 deals this year to date. So hopefully that brings some validity to understanding the value of what the property would be worth. Currently, as it's set up as a 3-unit, it's under contract for $175,000 to sell to an owner-occupant, which we will revisit later. The highest sale of a single-family home in this neighborhood, excluding the Marble Hill District, is $125,000. That's the first page of your reference here. The yellow is the Marble Hill neighborhood, showing that there's a significant difference in values in that neighborhood. What is in the orange is what I think would be usable comps for this property as a single-family home. Everything else really demonstrates the number of properties that were uninhabitable that have been sold in the last year. Typically, we'd only use 3 to 6 months of data in providing this, but I went back a full year to show a lot of color since there wasn't a ton of data. I also included active listings and withdrawal temp off properties in the next couple pages to show a little bit more color of the neighborhood. Of the remaining habitable homes, there were 5 that sold for between $49,000 and $115,000. There are 26 homes that were uninhabitable, all sold under $68,000. As you can see, the most we can hope for in a sale after putting 96.
Just give me 1 second if you
Sure.
don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
The bottom number is the value, which I think the next neighborhood, it's like double the value. So he's giving these as comps.
Which one's orange?
No, the last 3 are yellow.
Yes, I can't see.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, the orange would be the usable comps. That,
Totally colorblind.
Yeah, you can't see the
oh,
colors.
I'm
so-
sorry. I didn't think about that.
It's all right. We worked it out.
Well, I'm dumb,
Cool.
one or the other.
Perfect. So essentially what this is demonstrating is there were a large amount of homes that you can see, 24 that were sold under $50,000 in this neighborhood. As a single family home, we would consider probably somewhere between $125,000 to $150,000 as a sale. We would hope that this would seem to be practical difficulty. If it's not sure, or if it isn't, I'm not totally sure what practical difficulty is. Finally, we get to the social issue here, which is the support of the community. We attended the Upton Community Council's community meeting as soon as we understood that we needed to come to the zoning board and announced our intent to continue use as a 3-dwelling property. At the meeting, we heard very little opposition, but spoke to the local CDC quickly afterwards and wanted to set up a meeting so we could understand their goals. From our communication, we understood that Upton is looking for homeowners to move into the area, and that is what the community wants. We thought this worked great because we currently have an owner-occupant that is contracted to purchase and live in the property. I believe you guys have a copy of that contract that was given to you last time. If this is passed today, it'll sell on Friday. Otherwise, that buyer will not be purchasing the property.
And just for the record, everything that's been presented in the old case or the prior presentation is incorporated into
Okay,
this file.
perfect. Yeah, that was my assumption, so I appreciate that. We felt good that our sale of the property was actually helping to play into what the community was looking for, but in that quest for owner occupants, the community is saying that they don't want any multi-units. That being said, the local CDC is developing 2-unit properties on the same block as 744 Dolphin Street in hopes that they attract owner occupants that would want to offset their cost of living by having a lower apartment. This is a lot of what I do in my real estate sales business. We call it house hacking, where somebody would move into a 2 to 4 unit property and rent the other units out to help lower their cost of living.
And
So
this is taking place, you
same
indicated-
block, 762 Dolphin, I believe. No, it's down about 10 homes that they're redeveloping. It's totally, if you look at it from the back, there's just the front facade. So they're basically building these new. If we back up and take a look at the situation, we're achieving the same goal as the community with our sale of the property. We're able to attract an owner occupant that will offset his costs to live there with the income from the other 2 units. That being said, we believe that we have addressed the social issues to the best of our ability. Other considerations are also given in your packet from the Upton Master Community Plan and include the following. 1, the area is not plagued with a density problem. As you can see, according to the community plan data, the neighborhood population in 2010 was 73% lower than at its height. I hope this will demonstrate that keeping the current density of the property would not be a burden to the community, either by having too many people in the community or from a parking standpoint.
Do you have any density information from 2010 to now?
I believe that was the last census, and I don't know that there's new census data, but that was taken directly from the Upton Community Master Plan. All of those sheets are.
Good.
2, the community plan emphasizes a want for a variety of affordable but quality housing, both rental and homeownership. We've provided units that have stainless steel appliances, high-end cabinets, granite countertops, nice vinyl flooring, automated hall lights, in-building washer dryer, new windows, and high-quality entry doors, among other improvements. These 1-bedrooms units provide quality, affordable housing for the community, which is lacking looking at current rentals in the market now. 3, the majority of the residential uses in the Upton neighborhood are multifamily of 5+ units, representing 57% of the residential uses. There's a chart in there for that. Multifamily of 2 to 4 units hold an important role in a community and only represent 9% of the housing stock currently. 4th, one goal is to increase market rate homeownership by 5%. We're contributing to that goal with our current sale of the property, if it's approved, and is also to attract new residents. And it's my understanding in speaking with the buyer of the property, current buyer that we have, that he's a young professional moving from the county to the city. So that's also attributing to the goals set forth in the master plan. So to this point, we have proved that the property has been lawfully used as a 3-unit property in the past and nothing else, that turning this property into a single-family home would impose practical difficulties for a number of reasons, and that we're actually aligned with the community's goals of homeownership, although in a slightly different way than they support. The final thing I'd like to touch on is the practicality of what happens if this is denied today. If we are denied the ability to continue use as a 3-unit dwelling, then our buyer will no longer purchase the property. As there are no further funds from us to convert the home back to a single-family home, we'd either need to sell at a discount to an investor or let our hard money lender have the property back, then putting the property back into a truly vacant building. Likely, there would be a break-in over time, reverting a house that is ready to occupy people today and ready to serve as a home for a homeowner on Friday into a blighted property on this block on Dolphin Street, in which there are already 20 by my count. In most cases, you might think that this is hyperbole, but in reality, that is what would happen. This community suffers from vacant homes. It needs development, and it needs types of development like we are providing. Attractive units that will be owned by homeowners. And I believe it would be a disservice to this community to allow this property to become vacant again by denying our request to continue use as a 3-dwelling unit.
Okay. Are the 3 dwelling units, roughly the same size?
The top unit is slightly smaller because it doesn't go fully back. It's about, the first 2 levels are about the same. The last one's about 10 foot shorter, I would say.
And what is the general square footage of?
Probably about 900 or so each
Okay.
level, something like that. Top floor would probably be about 700, something like that.
Okay. Very well. Thank you. Let's hear from your opposition.
My name is John Gibbs. I'm the president of Dolphin.
Your last
Sir.
name, sir?
Just step over in front of the mic if you would.
Spell your last name.
Gasque.
Yes, sir.
My name is John Gasky. I'm the president of the Dolphin Pool Association, which we had this association here for 20-some years. Upton have nothing to do with us. That area is called Upton stop at Pennsylvania and Dolphin. Up through there, that's called Little Africa. This community, what we built, this building, what do you have here? Okay, 750. Okay, 750. They snuck the lady. We sold her the building. She snuck 3 apartments up in it. So when we found what she did, we brought her here. And y'all told her, no, you cannot put it, them 3 buildings there. So she sold the building. Now somebody of them come into the building and try to use 3 apartments again. No, tell them no. So we'll have them in front of you. These people that have, what's that, 744. My association been right across the street. They snuck in there, put this up in there, no permits, no nothing. Because anything come in the community, we have our own development corporation into the community. Everything was running, we do our own development through the community. It's a very healthy community, no drugs, no nothing, into the community. The idea, he came in, no permits or nothing, had a guy working there. So, you bring it back to original home? Yeah, but he was sneaking apartments in there. The idea, no apartments, into the community. What we have here, we have, how many apartments? We have 14?
We have 14 apartment buildings.
We have 14 apartment buildings, been there for many years. And it's have, how many apartments we have here?
2, 3, and 4 apartments.
In each building.
In each building.
They've been there for years. We keep monitoring them very well up in there. Otherwise, we say no more apartments. We got a development coming on. We're doing 2 more family contracts. We're doing 2 more family dwellings up in there. No more apartments, because we had too many problems, too much drugs come up there into the community. We worked hard.
Thank you.
Yeah, let me see, give them.
When you say you were having 2 more multifamily buildings coming
putting
in,
that right.
how many dwelling units are going to be in those?
Just regular family houses, no more apartments. Then our development corporation, we get ready to do another project there. We rebuilding the community up. Uplands have nothing to do with us. We put our money there, we goes up in Upperton and do development. We have our own development corporation. But the idea, what he did, snuck up into there, my association right across there, and told lies. No permits or nothing in the window, because the permits was there, what you gonna do? We read it. So the idea, we said no. Otherwise, he couldn't put that there anyway, because, got the package here, wait a minute. Here, no parking. No parking.
I gave him a
gave him
copy.
one?
I gave him
No
a copy of
parking.
it.
You can't park. People's come in, have to park around the corner. And so we had how many rooming houses we have there?
We have
I'm asking to shut them
12 rooming houses
12
with
rooming
6
houses.
or 7 occupants.
6 or 7 people is renting rooms out of one house. I'm getting ready to go to the state. This is going to be removed. Otherwise, otherwise, it's to help the community. We're watching now some of the rooming houses. We're watching the hookers go up in there. And you're not going to bring the drug back up in there, because there's a drug-free community, what we've been working on. So otherwise, somebody, like I've been telling people, the rooming houses, you come in by this house, putting rooming houses here. I want this to stop. I want to stop. There's not hotels. How can you put 5, 6 people up in a house, no fall escapes on the house? If it be a fall, what's going to happen to this here? So
Would you be willing to consider an owner-occupied 3-dwelling unit in exchange for the rooming houses that you're intending to shut down?
otherwise, the 3 they're going to be cleaned up. The rooming house is going to be cleaned up too. That's going to be cleaned up too. Because what we bringing in now, regular family peoples, because the idea, let me say something, 20 years ago, when we took the area over, it was the hood. Drugs on every corner. Nobody did to bring drugs in that community now. Nobody. It's called Little Africa. It's a family like where kids can play everything. Fremont Avenue, the Highland Park Association, they got killings, they got drugs on the corner, but nobody will cross that street and bring not one bag of drugs. But I see some of them rental places, the hookers coming up in there. When the hookers come in the community, it's drugs somewhere around. So we're monitoring this pretty hard,
But
yes.
the question that the chairman asked, sir, that
Yes.
we didn't get an answer to from you, is specifically, as the appellant has mentioned, is that one of the occupants of this building plans on being the owner. So he will own this building, the person who lives in it, and then he would rent out 2 other units. So is there opposition from the community of having an owner, so it's still someone who owns this home, who lives in the community, but rents out 2 other units?
No.
Is there opposition to that?
No, no.
Okay.
Because otherwise, when they snuck in there to do the building, no permits, didn't tell the association nothing. We back and forth to the community, working every day. I can't go to Marble Hill someplace and say, what I'm gonna put there, 3, 4, no, I can't do that. And you're not coming down there in our community and say, what you gonna put here, and what Upland told you, so-and-so, right? All he had to do is just walk right across the street to the association. We work with you. What you want to do here, right? Okay, we'll talk to you and so-and-so.
Let me ask
Yes.
you, had that been done?
What's that?
Let me grant you that that wasn't done.
No, it wasn't done.
Okay. Had it been done?
If it been dead, no.
3-unit, owner-occupied building.
We would have told him.
What?
No, you cannot put it there. You cannot put it there. We would told you.
Don't
Because
have
right here,
adequate
we've been in front of you before. We don't have double standing. 750. You told the peoples, no, you cannot put them 3 units there. So y'all shut them down. Because the idea, we brought them to you. Because we sold the house to them, and there, East Partners in it. When you told them you
Sold
couldn't.
a single-family home to that individual.
Right, and there's not Partners in there.
Did some other things.
Right. Then when they found you can't, when y'all told them you can't put them there, they sold the house to somebody else. Now I see them black the windows out, and I asked the lady. She said, "Well, Mister, his apartment's here." I see apartments back here again. Now we got to come back with y'all now. Got to bring them back down here. That's gonna be shut down. We don't have double standing. We let him do this here. Everybody want to come now and hustle dollar, had the community back again like it were before. We had to do a lot of fighting in this community. Raise money, everything we put in that community came from the association.
Okay.
In their houses,
So you're-
acid clean bricks, everything, we did it, our contractors.
So that we understand your
Yes.
primary issue or objection, you've mentioned several times parking. So more people.
Right, you
less
see that?
parking.
Cannot, no room.
You're going to be bringing, and let me just be sure I understand. You mentioned 2, I thought you said multifamily home. Are you talking about single-family homes?
Single-family homes, yeah, single-family homes coming, that's all coming. And we got our developers, we get ready to do some more properties up in there. Matter of fact, our contractors, we got some of the best architects, which we got from y'all city, that do development all through there, all around Marble Hill. Development goes through there. We do the development for the funeral homes, quite a few places. We does. Otherwise, otherwise, let's get back to him. What he did wasn't right and wasn't legal. If you came to the association, instead of sneaking something, there no permits. Who give him, permits supposed to be to the winners? Did permits was put on that building? Did they had permits?
Yes. Let me ask our staff what permit history we have with regard to this property.
What, permit?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, rephrase the question.
Well, actually, before I do that, let me just ask Mr. Carroll. We usually go you, opposition, and you again, but with regard to the permitting history, can you speak to that issue?
Yes, we have 2 permits on the property. One is an electrical permit. As we started going through, we were replacing a lot of the electrical, and there was a lot of work that had not been done previously correctly. Things weren't working, things like that. So we had an electrical permit and we have a building permit. When we actually finalized out the building permit, so we had the people walk through, the gentleman that was doing that was also the gentleman that would be coming back for the certificate of occupancy. This is before we understood that we needed to come here because of the vacant house notice. He noted some things that we needed to do for the certificate of occupancy, things like self-closing hinges on the all common area doors, things like that.
This is all with respect to a 3-dwelling unit.
All with respect to a 3-dwelling unit. When we went to go order the certificate of occupancy, that's when the first time we had ever known that zoning was now, I guess, demoted to a single-family home or whatever it may be. According to all of our data that we ever looked at, it had always been a 3-unit property. We had inspectors walking through there seeing that it was 3 units. We even had that final inspector come in and say, here's the things you need to do. I'll see you back for the C of O, which we did because we expected just for that to be a breeze. And that's when it was on the market as well.
Thank you for that information.
You're welcome.
Anything else with regard to?
Yes. Otherwise, what do you have here? We understand he put investments there, but what he did wasn't right, and we're not gonna tolerate this in the association. We got one more, 2 doors for him. That gonna be, they got to tear them apartments out, the eaves up in there. We're not gonna tolerate, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. We're not gonna let him put 3 apartments up in there. It's a single-family dwelling, we want it back there. Otherwise, we have not much trouble when you got all them apartments and stuff coming. We got the scrapper like the devil into my association building. I had like a police waste station there to get the drugs, to clean everything up. So we got the community running pretty good. So,
Let me,
no, we don't want it.
Ma'am, how do you spell your name?
Juanita. Last name Boyd.
Ain't that single-family dwelling?
You gave me your copy.
Yeah,
Yes, 2
yeah.
copies.
Yeah, hey, good look at no apartment, that's single-family dwelling. What they put the apartments in?
Yeah, in
It's here.
assessment stated that.
Assessments, single-family dwelling.
It's
What they
rental
put the
property
apartments in?
position.
It's here.
We're on the record. It's,
yeah,
someone has
let's-
to type this, so we have to make sure that we're.
state original permit, 2018, interior work.
Apartment buildings, single-family. Can't come in and put it.
Okay, sir.
What's that showing?
Yeah.
It's recording.
What's it showing?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I believe that indicates that there is a history of permits that have been pulled.
Yes, sir.
What it doesn't include, though, would be any inspection, final inspection tickets where the work would have been, the city would have gone out and inspected the work. So although permits were pulled, it doesn't automatically presume that work was completed.
Okay. Now, with regard to the issue, again, we're here because we've heard a lot of argument in the prior presentation, I think regarding the number of units. And so we're here with regard to the various issues. But with regard to the number of dwelling units, the demonstration that must be made by the applicant with regard to the number of dwelling units is what?
Is a history of use as 3 dwelling units,
Okay.
Continuous use.
Continuous use.
continuous use.
Okay. With your understanding of the use of that property, one, have you ever been in the property?
Yes, I've been in every place in there. Mostly all the buildings around through there. We send our contractors to do work in departments. We so have
Let me
them.
stay with this property.
Okay.
Tell me about your experience in that property. What did you
In
see?
that apartment, I forgot who brought that apartment. Harmon sold the apartment, the place to them.
It
So
been
the-
sold 3 times.
Yeah, they sold 3 times. And the first one was, let me bring it down to 750. We sold that. Then they eased up now. Let me bring it to you.
Okay.
They eased and then put 3 apartments up in there. So somebody had purchased that building.
Sir, I don't mean
I
to
want-
interrupt. We're focusing on 744.
Right, 744.
I want to know what you saw in 744 with regard to the...
744, when we found, it was a single-family dwelling. And somebody snuck and put them apartments up in.
So you saw 3 apartments, separate apartments in the
No,
building?
I've never seen them in there, because we know it was a single-family dwelling.
Well, sir,
Yes.
I'm asking you, have you ever been in the building?
Yeah, when it was single-family building.
How long ago was that?
Oh, this was a few years.
What does that mean?
Say, give it, what, about,
It's 2019 now.
You had the, let me say this.
Go ahead.
First, you had the bank to own the property.
right, the bank.
And the bank sold it in 2017, and then they sold it again, I think, in 2018. I'm looking at the assessment and
Yeah, talk to me.
taxation. And what I'm saying, what the president is saying to you is this is a community
Yeah, I
that...
understand all that.
I understand.
Mike, hold
but
on, hold
but
on,
let
hold
me,
on,
let
speak.
me...
No, let me speak. My questions are specific. I'm asking you what your understanding and what your observation of 744 has been. Have you been in the property?
Yes, 744 had the younger college students living in that building.
Right, right.
And they moved out.
Okay.
It was college students, and they moved.
wasn't a single family, it wasn't being used as a single
It was
family?
not it was the first, second, and third floor.
Okay,
It was a single dwelling. It was no apartments, but they had students living on the first, second, and third floor. No, it was not an apartment like those units what he's referring to.
Let me ask you this. When you say, because you're saying they're first, second, third floor, and you're saying they're college students living on the multiple floors. When you say single-family dwelling, what do you mean by that?
Okay.
What we
No,
say,
no, no, no.
okay.
No.
Go ahead.
Please.
Go ahead,
Only
go
one
ahead.
person.
Okay, okay. What we mean by single-family dwelling, like our office. Our office, each one of these houses is big, beautiful houses.
Yeah.
Winding stairs, and they have, each one have, 5, 6 bedrooms. Living room, dining room, which we were designing one, the Little Africa Green Smart Development, we were designing one, pure brick, our new development, what we bringing in there. Otherwise, like putting, starting from the basement, putting like hairdressers and stuff in there.
Well, no. Let me focus you. When you say single family, okay? When I say single family, that means one family's living in
One
the
family.
building,
One
right?
family.
One family.
One
So if you're saying at one point there were college students living in this building,
Right,
correct?
right.
And so, the college students living in this building, there are multiple floors. And you said you've been in this building.
Right.
So in these buildings on multiple floors, is it one door that goes into each floor level? So you go up to the first floor, and there's a door that leads into the first floor. You go up to the second floor, there's a separate door, or is it completely open when all the college students were living there?
Otherwise, from the first floor, just like my office, the first floor you goes up, you have like a bedroom, it's a door, a bedroom, then another bedroom, you go up the steps. You go up the steps, it's another bedroom, bath and shower.
When you went up the steps to the second floor, is there a single door that lets you into that second floor?
No.
It's just multiple doors?
Multiple doors for each room,
Okay.
because my office is the same way.
I know, I'm not talking about your office, I'm
All
talking about
buildings, I got the blueprints
744.
on. We designed these buildings.
But we're here about 744,
Right.
744 only.
Right.
744, when you were in there, when you went up to the second floor, was there one door that let you into the second
No.
floor?
No,
Okay,
no,
thank you.
no.
anything else?
Let's see. Otherwise, this is what I want to say. I forgot what year it were, when we shed them
But he
750
wanted
there.
to focus
No.
on 744.
But 744, right? We'll be back here with that and this too, because we don't want this in the community. Otherwise, the people think they're getting away. No, because y'all told them, no, you can't do this. Now, he coming here doing the same thing.
Okay, and I've heard that. Let me
Yes,
ask you this.
okay, yes.
You mentioned there were college students living
Living there, right.
You acknowledged that they were college students, they were
Yes.
going to school, they.
Yes.
Come
were
to the
they harming
association.
Were they,
Let the chairman please ask his question.
Beg your pardon?
Someone hasn't typed this, so you can't speak
Go
when he's
ahead.
speaking.
Understand.
Three people are speaking at once,
Go
so.
ahead.
Fine,
there's-
understood.
there's gonna be
Understood.
a muddled transcript.
Understood.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
all right, this is to you, ma'am.
Mhm.
You mentioned that there were college students living in the building.
Right.
Did you discern any impact, negative impact on the neighborhood as a consequence of that use of the building?
With that use of the building, those college students will come to the association. They try to work in the community to make a difference. And this is what we are focusing on. Not rental property where you have
Don't you think
one
the college
entrance at 744,
Yeah.
where they go into that building. All of them comes out. A lot of them come sit around and stand around, sit on steps. So if you have like single dwellings or a family dwelling, then you don't have that type of activity.
Trash.
You have trash, we keep that place very clean. So we don't want to fight against him and say, no, you're not welcome to the community, but bring in a safe haven for that community.
Should talk to the
See, because I don't have the understanding that this group coming in, I'm not knocking, it's the LLC. And they are folks, LLC group, under the LLC group. And what they are, this is all about money. We are about the community and to keep it safe. That's all I have to say on this.
Okay.
On this, all I have to say.
All right, thank you. Mr. Carroll, you have the final word.
Thank you. First, to clarify, it's being sold to a owner occupant that is not buying in an LLC. It is currently owned in an LLC, yes. That is, I'm the owner of the LLC.
Okay.
I think we've demonstrated to you, I think the record shows that it has been used as a 3-unit property. Registrations in 2014, 2016, 2017. The fact that zoning has it as a 3-unit dwelling, I believe you also have that information from previously. I don't think that that is up for argument here, and I hope that we've proved that it would be practical difficulty, not just for us, but for anybody to come into the community and to renovate this as a single-family home and use it as something other than a rooming house. Because I do observe that that is a problem in these communities. I own 62 units throughout the city, and I own a 3-unit around the corner. It's something that we observe a lot, and we are very proud of the renovations we do. And really, you know, the work I do is to put extra money in, not just so that I can get all the money at the end of the day, but to put things like granite, to put things like those nice amenities into the houses. So we hope that you guys will see the practical difficulty in, you know, having to take this back to a single family and see the merits that this has been continuous use as a 3-unit.
Can you address the one thing that hasn't been talked about for this, which is the parking?
Sure. There is parking in the back of the property. So as these are set up, you know, they're row homes with a parking pad in the back, no garage or anything like that. It's just an open parking pad. With a smaller vehicle, you could probably park them back to back. I think a lot of the people that are in this community also use public transit. There is fairly good public transit around here. I personally have never had a problem. I visit the property frequently. I live in Reservoir Hill, same zip code. So I would go check on our work very frequently, and when it was on the market as well. I've never had a problem with parking.
So is the contract for sale, does it come with a parking space?
It is in the back of the property, yes. It would be considered one parking space. You could maybe use it as 2.
Okay, so at least you can have one car not on the street,
And
you
you-
have one car available.
Exactly, and you have a fire escape that goes all the way up the back, which I think is another merit to it being a 3-unit. Single-family homes, as you guys have noted, don't typically have those fire escapes. It would probably make the most sense for that to go to the first floor because it has a walkout right there, but it could also go to the 2nd or 3rd floor by use of the fire escape.
Okay, anything else, Mr. Carroll?
No, thank you guys for hearing us again.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming out.
Thank you, sir.
Since the buildings are fire.
Roll in the window? Just one.
Yeah. Is there some paper you need to get back? Oh, we did. Okay.
Do you need the other one back too? Oh, okay, this is a part of the record. We have that, yep,
Thank you.
thank you.
That goes to that. Calling the case of 2019-244, 3311 Muller Street. Matt? Nup? Nopeful? Nopful?
But for the record, my name is Alex Kashafi.
Okay,
Here
Mr.
at his
Kashafi.
behest.
How do you spell your last
That's
name?
CASCIOFFE.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Kashafi.
Kashafi?
Yes, sir.
And this is a request to construct a 3-story rear addition with a rooftop deck, is that correct?
That's correct.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Hey, do we have any staff reports?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
And sir, could you tell us about your project?
Yeah, so it is a 3-story addition, but only as a result of the rear basement being walk-in. So the grade of the alley is a full story below the grade of the street. So it's like a 2-story plus basement addition, so it does not increase the height of the original structure. It's just from the rear, the grade is lower. So it's sort of tiered bump out extension of the house. So the first floor, the basement is a 10-foot extension. Main level is 20-foot extension, and the top level is 25-foot off of the existing 30-foot structure.
Okay. So with regard to the additions, can you tell me what impact, if any, these additions will have on the adjacent neighbors?
Yes, so we have contacted both neighbors. The neighbor to the west gave us their verbal consent with the project. They have no problem with it, and we made efforts to reach the neighbors immediately to the east. We don't see it impacting either immediate structures, and there seems to be some precedent on that block for such an addition to the property.
Okay. Any questions? No. The board? All right. Sir, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
Take care. Calling the case of 2019-251, 1501 East North Avenue. Shay Bennett.
Shay Bennett, yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
This is to use a first floor as grocery store, deli, carryout.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Swear the witness.
Raise your hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Do we have any staff reports?
There's one letter in the file from the Matthew Henson Neighborhood Association that says, "We oppose but are willing to discuss and consider this proposal if the applicant will come and have a reasonable talk with us. We meet the third Tuesday of every month."
Absolutely. I never knew there was an association. So,
Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property is in the Oliver Urban Renewal Area, which does not prohibit or further restrict the proposed use.
I'm sorry, what was that?
The property is located in the Oliver Urban Renewal Area, where that plan does not prohibit or further restrict the proposed use. However, the RMU Overlay District, Row House Mixed Use Overlay District, requires that there only be one non-residential use of the property, and the application as filed appeared to request approval for two non-residential uses of the property, and therefore the department advises the applicant to choose one of those uses. Thank you.
Mr. Bennett, before we actually go forward, now, we've called the case, and we've heard it, or at least the introduction to the case. The letter from the community indicated that they would like to speak with you.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, but just upon further review,
Yes, sir.
that community association wouldn't have jurisdiction in this case. This is noted that the address is East North Avenue.
Yes, sir.
In the Oliver neighborhood. This letter from this particular organization would be in West North Avenue.
pretty far away.
So I'm not sure why they actually opined in this case.
Very well.
Probably didn't read it.
Thanks. Okay. Mr. Bennett, let's hear about your project.
So me and my wife decided to purchase this property once we seen the church across the street be purchased. I am an IT professional, Navy veteran, and my wife is a nurse. We're just two people trying to invest in the community. We're not wealthy, and we're just, with each paycheck, trying to do as much as we can. And our goal is to have a grocery store on the main level because there's no fruits and vegetables, milk, or anything in the local community, and we live directly across the street from the courthouse. And we figured with the correction officers and jurors and staff across the street, we would have someone that could purchase groceries and also the local community. We had a hard time. We also own 1503, which is directly next door, and we are having a difficult time finding milk and juice. I actually grew up on a farm, and we decided, well, we have family members that have a farm out in towards the Severn, Westminster area. So we decided to work with family members and maybe do something for the community and invest in the community and do as much as we can. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. This is my first time in this kind of scenario. So our goal is to basically put a grocery store in the first level and live above the grocery store. And in 1503 right now, we're in the process of finishing that up. And my mother and her mother would live in that property. So it would actually be a family environment where our parents are next door, and my wife and myself and our 3 children would be above the grocery store. And my wife said that she doesn't want to work in the hospital forever, so she actually wants to work in a grocery store. Her mother ran a grocery store in Kenya for about 25 years. So her mother has the experience, and I basically said, okay, well, there's nothing I can really say no to, so I'm trying to support the whole effort. We're doing everything from our pocket, and it's taking a lot of time. I'm doing a lot of the work myself. I actually grew up doing construction before I went into the military, so a lot of work that I can do myself, I do. And I completed the demolition by myself with her brother, which was pretty difficult for 3 levels. And we're just trying to do as much as we can to help the community and invest into the community. And we've also been socializing. The entire block is empty houses. The whole block is pretty much burned out. So we're actually bringing in friends and family members that are professionals that are willing to buy homes. And we've been talking with the owner of 1507 and 1505, and we have some friends that are willing to buy the properties and actually work together. We all work together to get the places fixed up. So we're not contractors, we're not wealthy people, we're not investors, we're just people trying to live in the community. So.
Okay. Tell us about the floor plans for your business. The primary, as you're positing that the primary use is a grocery store.
On the main level. And we would live upstairs. So when you, ideally, there would be a ramp for like handicap, because we have some family members that are handicapped. We also have friends, so we said, I'm pretty sure there's plenty of people in the community that have wheelchairs. So the ramp would be around the front. You walk into the door, and when you walk into the door, you can have your dry goods on your left. You have your wet goods, milk, vegetables, fruits on your right, and you have like a deli counter where you can go get fresh meat. One of the things that we found in the local community is that there's nowhere to get fresh meat unless you drive pretty far to a supermarket, and tends to be very low quality meat and very expensive also.
Okay. Your color for the front of the store. Let's see here.
Which building is it?
The first one.
This one?
That's 1501. The one next door is 1503. Oh, that's a new picture. So we're almost finished with 1503, and 1501 is that one right there.
Okay.
So in the bottom half that you have right here, that section, you would basically walk through that door. No, that's 1501.
Oh, this one, sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
So this property would be the grocery store on the main level, and then the second level, third level is where me and my wife and kids would live.
Okay.
Okay, and so orient me with regard to your floor plan.
Okay. So on the floor plan, that anchor in front, I'm sorry, it's my first time doing this kind of diagrams.
Wait a minute, this is the basement.
Yes, so that piece in the front is the front of the building.
Here?
No, that's the back of the building.
Oh, up here.
Yes.
Got it.
This is it, okay.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So that's the front of the building. When you come in through the door, so this is the basement. So my wife had 2 different designs. So she had me do the basement first, and then she had me do the first floor. So the basement is with the walk, and you see on the side here, if you.
Actually, here, you take this
Yeah.
and you put it out what we're looking at.
Yeah.
So with the picture right here, you can see, if I hold that up, so on the side, if you walk down the side of the street, there's a lot of parking on that street. So you basically walk through the door here, and when you walk through the door here, that's where the counter, where you come in, like the cashier. Where the cashier would be at, these would be like the dry goods, wet goods, these would be where you can walk up and pull the refrigerator open to get milk and juice and things like that. And then the deli counter would be where the meat would sit, where you ask for sliced turkey, things like that, or chicken or whatever. And these will be the stairs that go up to the first level. And the idea with the, this is the basement level. The first level, if you said no to the basement and we had to do the first level, then it was like, well, we can do the same exact thing, the same exact floor plan, but on the first floor, if you said no to the basement.
So on here, you have safety glass partition walls. So the people who are coming grocery shopping, can they actually come back through and
Yes,
pick up
that-
what they want?
This door right here
Yeah.
will be open,
Okay,
and this would only close at a certain time, like say it was like 7 o'clock at night, we would close that, and then people, for safety reasons.
okay.
Since it'd be just my wife in the store, ideally. So this will be open throughout the day, and also a bathroom, because we have kids, and I'd hate to go to a place where I can't use the bathroom. This is also so the public can use the bathroom. Come shop, if they have children, gotta change a diaper, then you can use the bathroom.
Okay.
Also, we thought about for people in the courthouse, if they wanna come over and buy food, or just pick up something to eat that's already prepared, and if they gotta use the bathroom, they can use the bathroom, they have to go all the way back over to the courthouse and use the bathroom.
Okay, so what would the hours of the grocery store be?
It would be from 8 AM to 8 PM.
Okay.
8 AM to 8 PM.
And what about the carry-out,
Carry-out,
adjacent carry-out?
carry-out would likely end the time that the court closes at 4 or 5 PM. So our hours would operate off the courthouse. So if they close at 4, we would close at 4. So the primary goal is the courthouse and the church, the local community. For carry-out, if someone comes in during that time, it's fine, but the goal is to focus on the courthouse.
What would be the hours of the grocery again?
The grocery store from 8 to 8 PM, 8 AM to 8 PM.
So I could walk in at 7 PM and walk through this door that's labeled employees delivery?
This door here. So I went through a couple versions of trying to type this up the right way, but the goal of this was to show that an employee or people from the public, that's why I put public here, they could come in and they could go in, but also employees can come in and out. That was the goal of trying to explain that it could be employees or the public, and that's why I put public here, employees. So forgive me, I'm not an architect or.
So the public would not be able to, I mean, you'd have to go all the way to the back of the building to get to that door to get into the grocery store, is that right?
Yes, if we use the basement, then they would have to use the side door. The main level, if we had to use the main level, this is either or. Either we use the first floor or we use the basement.
Well, which are you
Wait a minute,
proposing?
Wait a minute, the application that I see here is to use first floor
Yes.
as grocery store, deli, carry-out.
Yes. The main preference is the first level, and the basement was an alternative. If the concern that we had is for ADA, if for the first level walking into the property, if we didn't have a way to, if it was like a complicated process to get like a wheelchair into the front door, then we would use the basement. So that was the whole idea on that. If the first floor was not wheelchair accessible or approved, then we could use the basement and go through the side.
So what are we considering? First floor?
First floor.
First floor?
And once again, I gotta ask you here, so I walk into your store at 7 o'clock and I wanna go back here and get groceries. I can go through this?
Yes. We're still trying to work out the hours. We're brand new to this, and the idea is to operate the grocery store freely for the community, and any carry-out, like selling hot food or warm food, would be the times of the courthouse. But if you come in at 7:30 and you need to buy some milk or pasta, it would be open, and you could come in, walk through the door, and buy the groceries. Yes, sir.
I don't see the purpose of the safety glass then, if it's totally open to the public.
Yeah, it seems like, I will tell you, that from the presentation on paper,
Okay.
it appears that the grocery store is an afterthought, because you've got to go all the way back, and there's a comparatively small entryway to the wide-open grocery store that you would have most of the traffic, I would
So,
imagine.
Let me explain why I put that, and I apologize.
It's okay.
Me not knowing how to do this. I've seen stores in the community with the glass. I thought it was required. I actually did not know you don't have to have it. If we don't have to have it, it'd be nice not to even have to pay for that. I thought it was something that was actually required for stores in Baltimore. We're brand new to this. We have no idea exactly what we're doing, and we're just trying to do the best we can with the knowledge. we
It
have.
makes the presentation of a carryout that you see in a lot of these
Oh,
stores
okay.
in the city.
Right.
And so, sun goes down, nobody's walking through the back of your building. They're coming to the glass and conducting their transactions that way, which I imagine some people feel is a safer thing to do.
Sure.
So that seems to be the kind of presentation that it looks like,
Right.
such that the presentation really is, okay, this is a carryout, Oh, by the way, we got a grocery store as well.
No, the primary is the grocery store. The primary is the grocery store. The carryout is just secondary for the courthouse to have continuous revenue coming in. So if we could strike that glass, if that's an issue, we would definitely be willing to and want to strike the glass. I just thought that it was something that was
You
required.
also said the glass was there for the safety of your wife, who'll be in
Right.
there by herself.
Well, that's one of the things that we're learning today, and I'm in the process of learning, is I thought it was required. It also was something that she was asking for safety, but if it's not something that has to be there, there's different ways we can deal with the ingress and egress to the property.
Well, I think one of the other issues that was brought up by Mr. French was, and correct me if I'm wrong, you said the application comes across as 2 uses instead of 1? 3 instead of 2?
The application form that we had access to, that's signed by Shea Bennett, says carry-out restaurant and grocery store.
Carry-out restaurant, okay.
And
Members of the board, I think I can help shed some light on that. When the applicant came in to file the appeal originally, and as he is testifying to today, there was some confusion around terminology and so forth. So as we talked through these scenarios and we explained that restaurant meant that you had sit-down seating and so forth, he made it clear at that time that that was not the intention.
Okay.
So when we wrote the appeal for the posting notice and the information you have in front of you, we wrote it for grocery store, deli, and carry out.
Okay.
So restaurant is not something that's being considered.
Okay.
Definitely not a restaurant. So to be clear, I know my diagram's really not the best, and I may not be explaining it as like a lawyer or a legal professional. The goal that we want to do is to have a place where the people in the community can go buy groceries, milk, some meat. Someone from the courthouse, as a consistent revenue stream, can come and buy some warm food for lunch or breakfast. That's it. It's not a desire to do anything other than that. We live upstairs, and it becomes a source of income, and if enough money is generated, then we both don't have to drive all the way to DC for work anymore. That's the goal. Now, some of the nuances with the layout and configuration, I just talked with an architect yesterday from Design Hands, who's a licensed architect. He looked at my diagram, bust out laughing, and said, "Did you submit this?" And I said, "Well, I submitted what I could." He said that he would work with us and help us to try to get the...
Let me ask you this. Would you like the opportunity to submit another diagram to supplement your application?
Absolutely.
Before we rule?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, if you could submit a revised floor plan, that'd be really helpful.
It would be up to the board to determine whether they felt like they had the information to rule on an appeal today, in which case, if you felt it was sufficient, you could condition on the submission of new floor plans, or you could choose to review he could choose to take the option of postponing and presenting again with new floor plans. It would be up to you.
I would love the opportunity for conditional use. The architect told me it's $3,000 for the drawings, and I said, I need about a month to get that money together. So any flexibility that the board has, I would really appreciate.
All right, I mean, I want to be fair to you. We're looking at what's in front of us,
I
and
understand. Yes,
there
sir.
are a lot of questions that were raised as a consequence of it.
Yes, sir.
So, okay. Any more questions?
No, what are we gonna do?
I don't know. I think we can condition it if he gives the full floor plan.
I wanna see it, though.
You want to see it? All right. Why don't we do this? Well, I'm not going to tell you, but you have the ability to ask for a postponement for the ability, so you have the ability to present additional plans or modified plans that the board could consider.
Yes, sir. I would like to ask if I can have the ability to provide some additional drawings and clarifications and show both different levels, or should I just focus on just the one level?
Well, I think the focus that we have here is you've asked for a first
level,
floor.
okay, so just-
And so if you focus on the first floor and, as detailed as you can do it, that demonstrates what it is you actually intend to do,
Yes, sir.
that would be helpful. Let me ask our executive director stand-in. We have also taken up matters and we've held our deliberations pending the
Yeah,
addition of
so
additional.
that's what you can do. You can hold the deliberation.
I think that's what we'll do. If you could submit additional information,
Yes, sir.
once that comes in, we'll be notified and we will be able to take that.
State still have the architecture school? Yeah, I would also suggest that you might want to call Morgan, ask the director of their architecture school, and they might be able to provide somebody who could do it for a lot less money than
Really?
$3,000.
That's great
Just
information.
saying.
And you also may reach out to a local nonprofit that's called the Neighborhood Design Center.
Right.
And they may very well be willing to provide you some assistance. You can call our office and get that information.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
All right, good deal. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Bennett.